Welcome back. Today we have a fantasy football video once again of players I just cannot find myself drafting so far this year. Now obviously this does not mean don't draft these players at all costs. Every player is a value at some point, but based on where they're going in drafts right now, I just cannot do it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy the video. Leave in the comments some players you are avoiding this year, and if you guys want a bold prediction video for fantasy football this year, let me know in the comments, and let's get into it. My first player out of 5 here is going to be AJ Brown, wide receiver of now the Philadelphia Eagles. His ADP is number 27 overall. Now Brown joins an offense that ranked 29th in passing attempts last year, definitely not the volume you want to see. And where does AJ Brown thrive? It's off of big plays downfield, and Jalen Hurts so far throughout his career has not been the most accurate deep ball passer. Brown has dealt with multiple soft tissue injuries in his career. He's missed 6 games the past 2 years, nothing that big, but still those soft tissue injuries, they will make you miss a few games here and there. I also can't leave out how good Devontae Smith was last year as a rookie. Had a 22% target share in this Eagles offense, almost had 1,000 yards. And him and Jalen Hurts already have built-in chemistry. We know AJ Brown's going to have 3, 4, maybe 5 monster games this year, but my fear is that in these other games where he's not putting up these week-winning type performances, he's going to kill your team. Like he might have games this year where the Eagles go run heavy and he gets like 5 targets, 3 catches, and 27 yards. Like you don't want that in your wide receiver 1 or even wide receiver 2 spot. He's going around guys like Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, Mike Evans. I would take those 3 guys over Brown any day. I think they're safer, and even a guy like Pittman I think has a higher ceiling. I think Evans, you can argue, has a higher ceiling because of the touchdown upside, and Chris Godwin might not being fully healthy right now, even Russell Gage. So yeah, I would definitely go other options as compared to AJ Brown. Number 2 for me is Breece Hall, running back of the New York Jets. His ADP is number 37 overall. Now I like Breece Hall a lot, the talent. If you're in like a keeper league, a dynasty league, a league that's not a redraft league every year, I would take Breece Hall because I think his future outlook's very good. But just for this 2022 season, I just can't get on board. Right now, he should be splitting carries with Michael Carter 50-50. Some Jets beat reporters are even saying that Carter is the starter. So if you're drafting a running back in the 3rd or 4th round in fantasy, he might not even be the RB1 to start the year. This could be similar to the Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon situation from last year, but they could be in a worse offense. And not to say that Javonte Williams was bad last year, but he had to be very efficient to get where he was at last year, and Melvin Gordon would steal some of his goal line carries, which of course fantasy owners hate to see that. So my strategy with Breece Hall this year is hopefully he gets off to a slow start. That's an opportunity where you can buy low. If he gets off to a bad start the first 3, 4, 5 games, his owner starts to get a little antsy, maybe send the trade over there to the Breece Hall owner and be like, hey, you know, he's off to a slow start. Let me give you this one guy who's popped off the first month, and I'll take Breece Hall. And you might reap the benefits of Breece Hall having a much better second half. Breece Hall should work his way into more of a higher workload as the season goes on, but look, fantasy football, you got to make the playoffs first. So if you are going to take Breece Hall in the 3rd or 4th round and he's not going to be a RB1 type guy or even a high on RB2 type guy the first half of the regular season, it's just very risky. So yeah, my strategy is just wait it out and hopefully you can get a trade offer for him somewhere halfway through the season, even sooner. Anyway, other guys I would take over Breece Hall in that area. David Montgomery, I feel pretty good about volume-wise. I think Khalil Herbert's good, but it seems like it's Montgomery's backfield. Travis Etienne has a higher ceiling, the receiving upside, of course, and A.J. Dillon, definitely more touchdown upside. I know he's technically an RB2 himself, but the touchdown upside in this Rodgers offense is so great, so I would take A.J. Dillon as well. Number 3 is Deontay Johnson, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers. His ADP is number 42 overall, and I've loved Deontay Johnson the past 2 seasons, but now, I don't know. I mean, this whole Ben Roethlisberger retiring thing, it just doesn't really sit right with me. This man has thrived off of short passes, very short average depth of target, and with Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, I just don't think it'll be the same. Johnson was bottom 7 last year in ADOT, but he did do well in yards after the catch, which saved him. He's a talented receiver, we know that. And while he does play pretty much every game, he always seems to be banged up. There was 2 moments in the 2020 season where he left games early and kind of screwed over fantasy managers because he left that game with like a 0, and I think he might have had like 2 points the other game. So Deontay Johnson's had moments of, you know, just worrisome injuries. Even this past game in the preseason, he hurt his shoulder. Apparently it wasn't that bad, but yes, we've seen moments where he gets hurt and doesn't come back into games. Johnson saw 169 targets last season. I had no idea it was that many, but that was second in the NFL, tied with Devontae Adams and only trailing Cooper Kupp. We know how great Kupp was last year. Now, why did he see so many targets on a team with Pat Freiermuth and Chase Claypool and Najee Harris and all these other weapons? It's because Ben Roethlisberger didn't want to get hit. He would just throw to the guys that ran the short area type routes, and he would just dump the ball off to Najee Harris, which is why I liked him last year. He was on my breakout list last year. And Deontay Johnson was also running a lot of drag routes and slant routes, and Ben Roethlisberger would just get the ball, get it out quickly. Deontay Johnson's right there. So that's why he got so many targets. Now, Steelers Depot, they posted Deontay Johnson's career targets by route, and you can just tell from this, like, it is, the top one is slant route, 61 targets, crossing route, 50 targets, a hitch, 50 targets, an out, 49 targets. Those are his 4 highest targeted type of routes, and those are all very close to the line of scrimmage. Now, go ball was number 5. That came in at 43 targets. He only had 14 receptions on those targets, and he's had 5 touchdowns on those go balls. But my point is, like, so much of this guy's production was close to the line of scrimmage, and if they have a quarterback now that actually holds onto the ball and wants to find the big play, why wouldn't they throw to George Pickens and Chase Claypool more? Those guys are good deep ball receivers. Obviously, I don't think Deontay Johnson's gonna suck. He's a good receiver, but to expect 169 targets again or something around that neighborhood, I just don't see it. I think he'll be more of like 130, 140 this year, and you're really, eating into that volume. George Pickens has been very impressive in the preseason as well, so I just don't expect that to happen. I would take other guys going around him, like Terry McLaurin. I'm not the biggest McLaurin guy, but at least he's the wide receiver 1 in his offense. I would take Mike Williams, a very pass-happy offense, a lot of upside, and Courtland Sutton, who's now the wide receiver 1 potentially for Russell Wilson. Next, we have a tight end, and it's Darren Waller of the Las Vegas Raiders. His ADP is number 47 overall. With the addition of Davante Adams, you can argue that Darren Waller might be the 3rd option on his team, and you don't want to see that. Waller had a 24.2 target share in this Raiders offense last year. That's a great number for a tight end, but with Davante Adams now in town, how much does that go down? He's also missed a ton of valuable practice time, and I say valuable because this is a new offense. Head coach Josh McDaniels comes in here. Apparently his offense is not easy to pick up on, and Darren Waller's been out for a lot of the preseason, a lot of training camp as well. And McDaniels wouldn't even commit to Waller playing in week 1. I think he will ultimately, but still, it's not a guarantee. Waller did miss 6 games last year with a knee strain. He's now 30 years old, so you wonder how much do the injuries pile up for a big guy. There's also this ongoing contract negotiation distraction, so that's not good. It might get solved very soon. It might be solved in the next few days here, hopefully, but that contract distraction is not something you want to see. And Waller is super talented. He's one of the most talented tight ends in football, but I just think guys going around him like George Kittle, who I think is the number 2 option in his offense behind Deebo Samuel. I know Brandon Ayuk is good, and he's definitely moving up people's draft boards, but I would still think George Kittle's the number 2 in that offense. And then you have Dalton Schultz, who should also be the number 2 option in his offense, especially while Michael Gallup's out. So if we see a lot of touchdowns go to Waller, I will be wrong. Hand raised, I will be wrong about that, but I can almost guarantee you that the volume from the last few years for Waller will not be what it was this year. And lastly, number 5, we have Elijah Mitchell, running back of the 49ers. His ADP is number 48 overall. This 49ers backfield, Kyle Shanahan, it's just a headache every damn season. If you go back a year ago at this time, we were taking Trey Sermon in the 4th or 5th rounds, and obviously he was a massive bust. In 2020, the first Niner back off the board was Raheem Mostert, who started off pretty well, then got hurt, and then came back, played well, and then got hurt, and then came back, played well, and then got hurt. So it didn't really work out. In 2019, it was Tevin Coleman as the first RB off the board for the Niners, and he finished tied in carries with Raheem Mostert, and even Matt Breida was a close 3rd place. You get the point. Every time there's a Niners back that we like in fantasy, it's just not that guy. Now, for Mitchell specifically, he has not been healthy much at all this offseason. In late April, he had a minor knee surgery done. They cleaned out some stuff in his knee, and then he came back for training camp, but then got his hamstring injured in early August. So he missed the entire preseason. He has not been practicing, and he did miss 6 games last year with 3 separate injuries. He had a shoulder injury, a finger injury, and a knee sprain. So 3 separate injuries, missing 6 games. There is some built-in risk there. The Niners GM John Lynch went on to say that Trey Sermon has been one of the best players in their camp so far. So Trey Sermon, who we all wanted last year, most of us wanted him last year. I actually took him in one league just because he fell, and I was like, all right, I'll take him, but it was awful. But now he's the guy getting hyped up by the GM, so it's like, I don't know who to take. Like, I don't want to take Elijah Mitchell in the 4th or 5th round. Some people take him in the 3rd round. I think that's crazy. And Mitchell doesn't really do much in the passing game. He had 19 15 receptions last year, only 20 targets in 11 games. That's under 2 targets per game. So with Mitchell, you're better off taking him in a standard league and hoping for the rushing yards and touchdowns, because receiving-wise, you're not going to get much. He's a good player and a good story so far, but I just don't trust his injury history, and I don't trust his head coach. Other guys going around Mitchell that I like more: A.J. Dillon, once again, I'm big on him. Allen Robinson, wide receiver for the Rams, and Brandon Cooks, wide receiver of the Texans. So I would go with those guys over Elijah Mitchell. And I do obviously think somebody in the Niners backfield will pop off and have a good season for fantasy, especially next to Trey Lance, who's a running threat himself. There will be a good back here, so maybe it is Elijah Mitchell, I don't know, but I don't want to invest in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. I'll just take somebody later. That's why I've been stashing Trey Sermon on the back of my benches in fantasy so far. That'll do it for this video. Once again, leave in the comments if you want the bold prediction video sometime this week. I know this upcoming weekend's the big draft weekend for most people, so I'll try to get it out before then. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll talk to you guys next time.